Okay, red car's back. I was going to do this as wash and drive, but Eric's back and we're going to be talking about washing again. You know, I showed you the process and went through the discussion of how we decontaminated it, but this is a little different wash. You know, we're going to do this a little differently. So we're going to go through, wash the R8. I'm really excited to see how this reacted to or reacts to water. We have, if you're not familiar with the series, we did a 7 or 8 part series of decon, paint correction. We ended up needing to do a 2-step correction on this. And then this has G-Technic Crystal Serum Light, single layer, which is a, I guess you could call it a ceramic coating or a glass coating. I just call it a coating. Single layer of that, topped with a single layer of EXO V3. They now have the V4 version, and then we have their C2 V3 on it. So what we're going to do here today, wash it, and we're going to use Bead Maker as a drying aid and see how it does with this, with Crystal Serum Light. We didn't actually coat or remove the wheels, but this has C2 V3 on it, which is one of G-Technic's topper. So the advantage of the pressure washer, come over this way a little bit. So the advantage of the pressure washer is that, you know, you see all the brake dust comes out. Right. And I've actually tested this. It's 900 PSI coming out of here. It's a 2000 PSI pressure washer. We're dumbing the pressure down quite a bit by changing the nozzle. So this is you know, pretty safe. Remember we talked about how being able to hold your hand out, but having a pressure washer helps to really get it all cleaned out. And actually that C2V3 actually is beating water pretty well. Again, we didn't treat or coat the wheels. I just kind of wiped them down with the product. So this is Adam's tire and rubber. We're going to do the wheel wells first. And this is that microfiber madness brush that we used. I generally don't even wait. What you should probably do with a wheel cleaner, if your wheels are really dirty and jacked up, you should probably wait. Let the wheel cleaner do its job, but in this case, the wheels are still pretty clean, so we're just kind of touch them up here. I always have the easy detail handy, so we can get behind the bigger calipers. So again, for this process, nothing changes, right, for the wheel cleaning. Nothing changes here versus what we did last time when we were working on your car before. And remember, wheels first, right?
Just the opposite of what I was taught.
Yeah, all of us. We've all been taught wrong. It's not really wrong. It's just how could you get the wheels done in time when the paint doesn't dry on us. I can't wait. Let's just see what it looks like. Oh yeah. I mean, that's what a coating's all about. The water behavior is a little bit more aggressive than a wax. You know, the contact angle is a little different, so the water tends to shoot off of the car rather than a wax where you'll tend to get big pools of water and sheets. This is Adam's rubber and tire cleaner. I didn't hit the lugs. Let me just clean those real quick. So what you'll develop over time is, and I never really think about this stuff, but you know, simple notes of just like doing this. You know, like I was teaching my son, he just wanted to kind of do that, which doesn't work as well. Or you know, the way you spray it on, you kind of foam it or spray it a little bit more aggressively. Just little things, little tips like that you'll start to develop over time as you're washing. That I guess don't come as naturally as I take it for granted, because I've been doing this so long. For the video, what we're going to do is we're going to go around and do that same process, get the wheels cleaned up real quickly, and then we'll come back and start dealing with the surface of the car, which will be the fun part. I don't think they can see this color light. Something's up, because this should be like a mosquito gosh darn disaster out here. But plus I've got that silky smooth, milky white skin that they're not attracted to. You know, I smell too good.
No comment. I'm just going to leave that
the
alone.
mosquitoes aren't interested in me.
We're not recording, are we?
Either that or I'm genetically flawed. I get worried about it. It's like maybe I'm genetically flawed and mosquitoes don't really bother me. All right, now comes the fun part. This is the fun part of having a coating. So coatings generally don't look quite as good as wax, at least to me. And to most people, it looks great. Waxes tend to give a little more depth. These tend to give a little more gloss, but the byproduct of the coating is that we should get much better beading and water behavior, and stuff should wash off of it easier. Now, a lot of coatings claim that you don't have to touch the car. We're still going to have to touch the car and wipe it in order to clean it. And so those claims are, at least in my experience, aren't true. So we still need to wash it with a bucket of soap and a mitt. So first thing we're going to do is rinse it off like normal. Look at that, that's the Aerospace 303. That's, which beads water is great. So it really does protect your top. And you really only have to put that on like every couple of months, if that. Oh yeah, that's what it's all about. I forget, what did I put on the glass? I think I put Wolf's on it. I don't remember. Yeah, it was Wolf's.
Hey, look. Got a lizard on the car.
Oh.
Hey, he's sliding down the side. He's sliding down the side.
Is he sliding? No, that's a coating test. So we want something that's pH neutral, at least I do. I don't want to damage all this work that we did to get this darn thing all dialed in like this. We don't want to strip it off. Or not that you really could with a soap, but we don't want to damage the toppers and the sealant and all the stuff that we put on this thing. So we want to use something that's pH neutral, and so we're going to foam it. And the foam, to me, just creates lubrication. So we have lubrication on the surface so that then when we go to wash it, we hopefully have less chance of scratching. There are lots of schools of thought where you would use a more aggressive soap that lifts or breaks down the dirt, and then you foam it, let that sit for 5 minutes, and then spray it off. I find that I don't want to do that because I don't want to mess up this amazing finish that we work so hard on. So I've got 150 mLs of soap in my cannon. I actually filled up a little bit more water than I needed. This is an MTM foam cannon. We always turn it all the way positive and let it roll. That part's cool, right? That's the glory shot. So this, this is, oops, I missed the spot. This isn't an imperative step. It's become really popular to do this, but notice the soap is running, right? So even if the soap isn't lifting, it's at least slick, and you would hope that some of that slickness of the soap would pull a little bit of the dirt, or at least loosen it up a little bit, you would hope. I've found that it doesn't do a whole heck of a lot of that, but I like having it for a couple of reasons. One, this soap is pH neutral, so now if this did dry on the surface, I don't know if we talked about that, but let's say you're washing it in your driveway, and it's like 6 a.m., and you finally you do the wheels, and now it's 6:45, and the sun's starting to come up over the horizon, and then you've got one section of the car. Let's say that this section of the car the sun was starting to get on it. Your normal tendency would be, man, I got to get this soap off. I got to get it off fast because I don't want the sun to dry it. You would actually be better off having the soap dry than just water, because this is essentially bringing your water down to a pH of 7 or something close to 7. And so if it did dry, you should be able to just rinse it off. You know, whereas if you had a water that had some minerals or something like that in it, and that dried, then you could end up with, you know, with a water spot, especially with a coating. Coatings are very susceptible to spotting. And so what we're hoping to do with the XO that's on top of our coating, combined with the, well, there's C2V3, we're going to put bead maker on this, so we're putting toppers on our coating to hopefully alleviate one of the real deficiencies of a coating, which are water spots. They just tend to spot more. Like if it rains, you know, we get that Florida rain where it rains for 5 minutes and then dries and it's 95 degrees, you know, and then that water becomes a magnifying glass and we end up with a water spot on the car. So this foaming part, I mean, the engine's still hot because you just drove here. I actually feel much more comfortable that that the soap is sitting on the car than if it was just bare water. So let me get our bucket set up. Microfiber Madness Incredipad XL. Take some soap. My 32-ounce bottle is empty, so I'm just going right from the gallon. Take a little bit of soap. Not really an exact science. I'm probably a little less stingy with soap now that I don't really get it for free, but I get it at cost because I'm buying lots of soap for people, so I'm a little bit more less stingy. But you put a couple of ounces of soap in your bucket, using that to spray into my fancy buckets that get me into more trouble than they're worth. But one thing that is happening, I'm bringing the buckets to HQ, and so you're going to be able to buy 1 or 2 or 2.5 or different colored casters. There's going to be all kinds of options. I think I might even make black labels at some point to give people options to not have to worry about whether they believe in blue or red or whatever their options are. Because some people think blue for wash and red for rinse. It just depends. So washing in general, especially now that we spent all this time correcting it, now the top obviously doesn't matter, but we want to be careful with our pressures. We really don't need any pressure, especially with all these fancy chemicals we put on the surface of the car. We shouldn't need to worry about chemicals at all. By the way, I learned that your wiper blades just push up. Yeah, it's usually on these cars it's super complicated.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It was an 8-part, took 8 steps just to reset the tire pressure because it dropped 2 pounds.
Man, that's slick. So one disadvantage to coatings is they tend to not be as slick right off the bat, but as they harden, then they get slicker, you know, a little softer to the touch or smoother to the touch. Yeah, I really like this. I'm going to strip the wax off my M3 and put this on. I don't know, something about this doesn't look as coating-y, if that's even a word. It's a word that I made up. That there's like, you know, coatings have a different look to them, but this looks more, I don't know, just looks a little different than what I'm accustomed to with a coating. So you want to go top down, just like we did on the Decon. You want to use our rinse bucket. Now, I get in trouble for this all the time too, and maybe it's a Florida thing, but when I take my microfiber and I put it in here and I just kind of slosh it around a little bit, I found that all the dirt falls out. What you're technically supposed to do is push it all the way down to the bottom and rub it on the grit guard. I just haven't found the need to do that. As soon as I put this darn thing in the bucket, the stuff comes out of it, or most of it does. Now, again, it's probably partially because I'm cheating a little bit. I mean, this car isn't like super dirty. You know, we didn't drive through mud or anything like that. But I would argue, even if there's dirt and stuff that gets on the pad, most of it just falls right out as you put it in and slosh it around in the bucket a little bit. Now, for those of you watching, the intent here, I'm not going to be doing to Eric's car or doing to other people's car like I did to Eric's car here. So I'm not intending to do, you know, a week-long paint correction series on every car that I do or drive. But the plan here is once every couple of weeks, invite people to come up to HQ here. I'll wash their car and do a drive, talk about the car, talk about my experience with it. I know I've done a couple of videos with my own car and I've been talking about doing this for a while, but I'm actually going to get it done. So this is going to be longer. This is a longer video than what I would intend. The wash and drive series is intended to be 20 minutes, 10-minute wash, 10-minute drive. So I'm going to start to do those in regularity. We'll figure out a schedule that works, a schedule of launching them. But I'm going to start doing that soon with all types of cars. So don't send me an email yet, but stay tuned for if you want to bring your car up here and have me wash it, and then you want to let me drive it. I'm going to be doing that here soon. So we're going to switch to deionized water just because I can. You really don't have to. All right, so rinse it. Again, this is DI water. Look at that. That's fun. This is what people get all excited about. Watch this. That's fun. I don't care who you are. That's why people love coatings, because nothing can do, a wax can't do that. So let's say you didn't have a leaf blower or some way to dry this. One other nice thing about a coating is if you were using a garden hose, you could do the sheeting method where you just take the hose, kind of kink it, and just run water, and it'll pull pretty much all these beads off. But since leaf blowers are cheap and easy to get, we might as well use that. But before we do that, we're going to hit the see how the rotors are already starting to rust over? So we're going to hit that really quickly. Let me get some of this water out of here. My new thing is to test, make sure this doesn't fly off. I got the new little tip thingy too. I'm probably talking too loud. So I got this thing. We'll see how this goes. Ego 530 CFM version. Using the leaf blowers to get most of it off. Now, we just use deionized water, so you could just drive home, be fine, because we won't have water spotting issues. But I want to put something on top of this, so I want to get something and continue to build and maintain that sacrificial layer. This is actually like the opposite of the coating. A coating is a harder, thicker surface. It's got the silicon dioxide coating. This is a polymer sealant, and for whatever reason, this product bonds well with pretty much all products, waxes, coatings, everything. So the first time we put this on, I'm probably gonna have to go refill the bottle here, but we're probably gonna use this whole bottle on the car. We wanna soak it down pretty liberally, which means it's also gonna be a bit of a pain in the rear to deal with, because as always in Florida, it's humid. So you will really won't have to do this again. So that's about the right amount. Where it starts to bead on itself is about the appropriate amount to do. And I'm going to put a couple of squirts on here just to make sure I'm lubricated. And so I'm going to use the high pile side of this drying towel for the first wipes, and the low pile side to come and do the final wipe. And so then I'm going to take and push the product around a little bit. Another towel that a lot of people like to use in this application or this part of the process, they like to use a twist loop towel. I don't know, I'm probably just being stubborn. I just don't like those towels as much. They just don't feel as soft to me on the surface. And so what will happen is, this is a monomer, so it'll eventually start to cross-link with itself, bond to itself. And then that's what gives you the depth. So a few hours from now, this will start to look better. It's weird. Like I fought this product pretty hard when I first saw it, but it didn't take me long to adopt it. And now, as always, I've taken heat for causing some hype. I just like it. So we're gonna need a lot of towels to do this.
Killing me.
Now, on the windows, I don't put as much, but I do put it on the windows too. I tend to just do this. It doesn't, from the chemist that makes it, it doesn't last as long on glass. But if I'm washing the car every so often, and I put this on, it works as a topper on top of my glass coating too.
So, stupid question, just better than Rain-X, obviously.
Yeah. Well, we already have a Rain-X-like product on here. I already put that on here called Wolf's Glass Sealant.
Okay. Just
a better version of a glass sealant. But then this is just, in essence, just topping that. And it gets a little ridiculous, all this topping, the topper, the topper, but so I don't know, I just find that spreading it around with the high pile, coming back and grabbing the rest with the low pile side seems to work for me. Especially since the next time I'm just going to spritz a little bit on just to maintain the layer. I wouldn't be surprised if these towels were getting a little haggard too. I mean, I've been using these for, these have probably been through the wash 50 times, 30 times, something like that. So I've washed these and used these a lot. 30 might be a little aggressive, 20, 30 times, something like that.
You put them through on a gentle cycle by any chance?
Always, yeah. Wash on cold. I wash them heavy duty. So it's okay to wash them if you're having an aggressive cycle. What's not okay is it's not okay to dry them with a lot of high heat. So I wash them with a product called Micro Restore, and then I dry them, no fabric softener. You don't want to put them in with any other towels, like anything cotton or anything like that. When they're new, especially these like bright blue towels, they're going to bleed. So you want to wash them by themselves to start. But then you can wash the darks together and the lights together after maybe a wash or two. So this product is very counter to other products. We've always been taught to put just a little bit of product, not a ton. So we're putting a lot more on here than we normally would with like a spray wax or even like when we did the coating, we're doing a very thin layer. With this, you almost want to cake it on there, just spray tons of it. Yeah, I like this better. So maybe I should stop complaining about humidity and think more about the drying towel that I'm using, because that was way easier. Gosh, it just looks so good. Dare I say this is the best work I've ever done. That's because Rex did 3/4 of the car. We had to work at this thing. Remember, we had to break out the wool on this. I've also talked Bob into bottling this in 32-ounce bottles for me. I should talk him into making it exclusive OG. In fact, I'm going to call him tomorrow. Screw the rag company. They're the ones who taught me this, but I don't care. It's all about me. Didn't you know that? Bead maker's going to make me rich and famous, so that way I can get some drains in my wash bay. Kind of reached the limit here. So these are much softer than a twist loop towel. That's become like all the rage. But a twist loop is much heavier, has a lot more surface area, so it'll absorb more water. But I like softer because I don't need to absorb a lot of water because I'm blowing it off. And we just have this amazing coating on here to eat up most of the water that could become a problem. Or, not a problem, but would soak up your towel. All right, so let's do the wheels, tires, and we're done. Oh, actually, we got to do the door jambs first. So door jambs will just do a door jamb towel.
And that's basically an old retired blue towel.
No, these are
You actually have a special towel.
fresh, fancy, special towel. I don't like to commingle this towel with my paint if I can help it, because right now, you know, I didn't wash this, so there's a bunch of dirt on here. So I'm going to grab a bunch of dirt. Yeah, I know it's overkill, and you don't need.
No, it makes sense.
You don't need another towel, but that's just the way I do it. All right, wheels, bead maker.
Everything.
I have my wheel towel, which is the same darn thing as the blue towels, but I like it better with an edge. I don't know why. It just seems to work. I like the idea of having, having sets of stuff with a purpose to it. It's certainly not necessary. You could buy one of these 10 towels and use them for everything, and just wash them. But I don't know. It's just the way I do it. So this is Carpro Pearl diluted 1-to-1.
It's what?
It's diluted 50-50. 50% pearl, 50% water. So that way it's runnier. I used to do it straight up out of the bottle, but I dilute it. And so what I do, this is a Race Glaze XL brush. This is an Adams foam block. So here's my new process. I used to just put this on with the foam block, but now I do one of these deals. Spray it on this brush. Don't hit the car. Apply it. I feel like I'm getting better. I should listen. I should actually start to listen to people when they tell me this. I'm so darn stubborn. It's not even stubborn. There's only so much time in the day to try stuff, So then I just take my block and do that. I call this the Gary Olson method because I stole it from him. He'll like that. Always honor the source. Or try to. Sometimes I don't know what the source is. Sometimes I think I made it up and I just stole it from somewhere. But I generally try to honor the source. And then we wipe the excess off and we have a nice matte finish. So my thesis on this whole thing is we really beat the, remember we put that stoners on there, we used the Terminator to really clean this up. So we spent a lot of time to clean it and get all the silicone junk off of the tires. And then we put the pearl on it, the 1-to-1 pearl when we were back at the garage, when we were finishing up the car. And then what I'm doing with Adams Tire and Rubber Cleaner, there are stronger real wheel and rubber cleaners, all-purpose cleaners that clean the tires. But I don't want to strip all the pearl off. I just want to maintain. I want to kind of clean that surface dirt and then continue to add the pearl. If you're buying pearl and you're planning on having this last for 6 months on your pickup truck, it's just not. It's going to turn brown just like any wheel or tire dressing will. But if you maintain it, if I superficially cleaning it, adding, superficially clean it, add it, superficially clean it, add it, then it stays like this until you get new tires. And then when you get new tires, you got to use Terminator and really clean it up really heavily, and then do that process again over and over. So now we have a nice matte finish, and I just continue to maintain it over and over and over again. So every single time I clean the wheels, I use bead maker, and then I wipe it off with the high pile side, the little softer side, and then, I don't know, it just makes sense to me to use the lower pile to do the final wipe. But I'm going to apply it with my Race Glaze brush, hit it with my foam block, come back, and wipe it off with my towel, and then I've got a nice looking surface. See, we're starting to rust over, and so that's where the moving back and forth thing would be really helpful for you to help keep it from dust or rust dusting your wheels. These wheels won't look as bad as black wheels will, but you tend to travel a lot, and a lot of times you'll leave the car sit for weeks on end. That rust will just make a gosh darn mess. So we want to try to get that off if we can. Yeah, you have to. We have to go for a drive because it's for the good of the people, for the good of the world. Maddie's never driven an R8, so I've got to, let alone a V10 R8. So I've got to get that under my belt. I'm going to be driving I think a P1, McLaren P1 this weekend, next week, maybe even a Carrera GT. I don't know if he meant go drive it or if he meant look at it. I'm taking it as go drive it. And a 918.
Or now, take it for a real drive or valet style?
Yeah, just go driving around, you know, on the back road. And
That was a joke. I mean, you know.
they better not keep me in valet mode.
Yeah, you're right, though. It does look a lot better with the matte black finish on the wheels.
Yeah. You don't need shiny. Shiny's for amateurs. All right, car looks good, man. Beadmaker, yeah, I think that this is going to really do well on G-Technic. I'm really pleased with how this car came out. You know, I was kind of waiting to wash it till I made my verdict on the product. I loved how the product went on. You weren't there when I put it on, but I wiped. You know, coatings a lot of times when you put them on are real difficult. You have to get your stopwatch out, or you're watching to see if it flashes and it, you know, turns color, if you will, or it looks like when you first put it on, it looks like a heavy oil slick, and then it'll change a little bit in how it looks. You don't have to do any of that with this. I did a section, wipe it off, done. Wait a couple hours, and I put the next thing on top of that. And it doesn't have that real heavy coating look to it. Uh-oh, missed a spot. It just looks clean, man. I don't know how to explain it, but we've got lots of depth, clarity. It just looks good. So if you continue to maintain it where, you know, pressure is key. So we don't want to use a lot of pressure when you're washing, using 2 buckets, using a pH neutral soap. You know, if you can get your hands on a pressure washer, you'd pressure wash it, or even with a hose, spray it off first, foam it with some sort of foamer. Hopefully, you know, with a pressure washer, you'd be able to foam it like we do, and then do this process. And you do this. This took what, an hour? You do that every time. Sometimes you may skip the wheels, you know. But what I would urge you and most people not to do is resist the temptation to wipe it down when it's in the garage. So let's say you go on a Sunday afternoon, you go for a 50-mile drive, you come back, and you're like, okay, car's clean because it didn't rain. And then you just go and wipe it down, and you'll negate all of that work we did. There are ways to do it, but even then, you're still introducing chances of getting toweling and scratching marks. You know, you really have to be really careful when doing that. So I tend to err on the side of just wash it. Do the whole wash. If you do the whole process, yeah, you got to have all the stuff and get all the stuff out. You know, that's part of the disadvantage to it. But just wash the darn thing, and you'll keep it like this. Now, even the process we used over time, we're gonna degrade the surface. We're gonna scratch the coating. We're gonna mar it over time. From, you know, maybe you had a little piece of leaf in your towel. You just don't know. So, after a year, or this will probably be good for 18 months or so. After about 18 months, you'll start to lose some of the slickness. You'll start to feel some surface contaminants will start to embed itself, and then process over again.
And that's 18 months of regular drive time or garage time?
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it just depends how much you drive it. Yeah. You know, 18 months or
I don't know if it naturally
5,000 miles or something. It just depends. It's the number of factors. But I find that, you know, I drive my car 5,000 to 6,000 miles a year, something like that, 4,000 to 6,000 miles a year. So in that case, you know, 18 months to 2 years, I'm going to get out of it before I'm going to need to start to worry about getting the crunchies off the surface. And when you do that, you're going to mar it. And so then I want to strip it down and start over. Now, we hopefully will never have to go to the extent we did where we were, you know, polishing out all those dealer love marks, the brand new marks that we saw some wet sanding marks and things like that come on all new cars. So hopefully we won't ever have to get out that heavy compound or wool patty, and we may be able to just touch it up. But, you know, this theoretically should last, you know, quite some time, and we should be able to continue to maintain it. I'm really interested to see. You'll have to give me a heads up on making sure that the bead maker stuff seems to be holding up on top of the coating. As of right now, it looks great, so I think it'll be okay. You just don't know until you put 2 chemicals together and see what happens. So the stuff that's on the surface, how well does that play with the new stuff I just put on it? As of now, it looks great. So anyway, thanks for letting me do your car, and thanks for bringing it back here to do the first wash. I've never begged anybody to come have me wash their car before. So I've been like, Eric, I need to wash your car. So anyway, thanks for letting me do that, and everybody's watching. As always, stay tuned for more crazy. We have lots of it coming. He's going to let me drive it. Check out that video. Because what happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.